today. Continue to pray for our members, those who are here, and those who are absent from us. Remember them. Always a great deal of bless us and be with us all that we do. So thankful and grateful to be here this morning, today. And all that we do. We're in chapter 11, grateful and thankful for you. Grateful to people that are watching, welcome you who are listening to our broadcast on our stream. We're back in Ecclesiastes chapter 11, church family, and we're here. We're about to tackle this 11th chapter. We're almost at the end of the book. Can you believe that? We have went through the whole book of Ecclesiastes. And we are at the last chapter coming up next week, and we'll be off for 3 weeks. At the end of chapter 12. Chapter 12 is the last and final chapter, and we're in chapter 11 tonight. We're grateful and thankful to be here. We're going to look at that and welcome those who are listening on our site. So if you Bibles, turn with us to chapter 11 in the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 11 in the book of Ecclesiastes. And we're coming to the end of the book. Solomon is wrapping up a few things, and he is bringing us into another realm for us to understand as we look at chapter 11. And we're going to look at the subject of benevolence and diligence. Benevolence and diligence. What does it mean? And Solomon is going to draw to us a bigger picture of what it means to be people who give and people who are diligent in their work. God has always called us to be people who give. That's a characteristic of believers. It's always been a characteristic of anyone who is connected to God. God is able to be people who brought offerings and to give. So the idea of us being people who give is something that's new. We are to give and to be people who are not stingy, and to see ourselves as having all Christians have the gift of giving, and that we are to give and to see ourselves as givers. Now, we may not have the individual specific gift in which God has granted you with the gift of giving, but all of us are called to be givers. Giving of ourselves, giving of our times, giving of our offerings, giving of our lives. And the essence is that we are to see the resources that we're really stewards of God's funds that belong to Him, and we distribute them accordingly as He has called us to do that. And Solomon also brings us into the clarity that being people who give, giving, is also resourceful. It's resourceful. And he sees it in a way that is meaningful to your life, but also practical in your life as a whole. You're not just to see giving as just something that you do, but giving is to be seen as something that is a part of us that can also benefit us. And he draws this conclusion as he's beginning to look at life, and he sees life in a much more, as you've been going through the book, he's beginning to narrow down that life with God has a purpose and a meaning. But he's also bringing us the perspective of life on earth. Remember, Solomon doesn't know, he doesn't have the divine revelation of Jesus Christ and the glory that's coming and all that, but he's giving you just his message as it relates to what it's like to live life in this life here on earth. So we're going to start off in chapter 11 this evening. We're going to look at verses, and we're looking at verses 1 through 8. We're going to talk about really the value of giving and being a diligent person. We'll talk about those in the first 8 verses. And then we're going to talk about in the final 2 verses, 9 and 10, Solomon has to give us some advice for young people. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But in the meantime, we're going to talk about this idea of being diligent and giving, being benevolent. Benevolent means a person is giving, and also a person that's diligent. So we're going to look at 2 verses, verses 1 and 2. And this is a very familiar, we've heard this verse many times all through our life. It's a very familiar verse that talks about casting our bread. So someone read that 1 and 2. Read that for us.
Cast your bread upon the waters, for you will find it after many days. Give a serving to 7, and also to 8, for you do not know what evil will be on the earth. Okay,
so Solomon gives us a very powerful verse. This is a very interesting verse. Cast your what? Bread upon the waters. In other words, be a person who in many ways takes a risk to give something. You never know what's going to happen. That's basically what he's saying. You are throwing something out. You're throwing out resources upon the waters, and you're seeing yourself as a person who is giving, and you don't know what's going to happen. That's what he's saying. You're casting your care. You're casting your bread, and it will return back to you. In other words, Solomon is drawing us into the mentality, into the mindset that we are to take a risk with life. We are to give, and we're to see our position in giving as being something that we're casting out, that we're taking this chance, we're taking this risk. And then it says in verse 2 that it says what? Give, right? In other words, the way that you look at giving is you're giving because you're seeing giving in a bigger picture. As you give to people, you don't know how that's going to affect them, and you don't know how it's going to affect you. You may be giving to a person that later on is going to give to you when times get hard. And so Solomon is saying, look at giving in a much broader spectrum. Begin to see it as something that can happen for you now, but may pay off for you later on down the road. And as you see yourself as being a giver, and a person who gives, this is something that is ultimately beneficial to you that you may not know anything about. We have lots of different verses that talk about giving. Giving is not, as we mentioned before, it's not something that's unusual. In 2 Corinthians 9:7 talks about, says, Paul talks about the people, says, who am I, or that we should be able to give as generously as this? Everything comes for you, and we have given you only what comes from your hand. So Paul talks about giving to the Corinthians, and that the Corinthians were to be people that are giving. Proverbs 18:16 says, a generous person will prosper. Whoever refreshes others will be refreshed. So giving plays a role in helping other people, and then one day it will come back for you. The Bible talks about that. So be not deceived, God is not mocked. Whatsoever man soweth, that shall he also reap. So the concept of us giving and being people who give is something that is not unusual. So Solomon tells us that this is something we should be benevolent. Proverbs 11:25 says this, for if the willingness is there, the gift is acceptable according to what one has, not according to what one does not have. In other words, giving what you have and being able to provide what you give is vitally important. 2 Corinthians 8:12 talks about it. Give and it will be given to you. A good measure pressed down, shaken together, and running over will be poured out into your lap. For with the measure you use, it will be measured with to you. So giving is always a characteristic of every aspect of our lives as Christians. Being able to give, being able to see ourselves as givers because God has given. He's given what the ultimate gift of. So the characteristic that we have as believers is that of giving. So Solomon introduces us to the idea of seeing ourselves and exhorting us to be givers, to be people who are in our funds. But he also says something else. We're going to look at verses 3 through 8. And he talks about as we are living life and we're giving in life and we're functioning in life, that we're to see ourselves and to see our lives in a much broader spectrum. That we're to see ourselves as people who are diligent in the lives that we are living to function and to see our position as God's people, this is for Christians, as giving and being. This involves diligent. Now, what we mean by diligent? Doing something and being faithful in what it is that you're doing, being consistent. And so Solomon is going to talk about in this next few verses. Now, one of the things that people have a tendency to look at, they say, well, I need to give, or I need to do something, or I need to provide something for God at the right time. I'm going to do it. Eventually, I'm going to get to it. They procrastinate. Say, I'm going to do this for the Lord, and eventually I'm going to get to it. And Solomon's going to say, that's not how you look at life. So look at what he says in verses 3. So I'm going to read for us verses 3 and 4. And this is a very interesting picture that he says here. Look at what he says. He gives a description. He says what?
If the clouds are full of rain, they empty themselves upon the earth. And or north, in the place where the tree falls, there it shall lie. He who observes the wind will not sow, and he who out will not reap.
Now, this is a very good, interesting statement that Solomon wants to draw in verses 3 and 4. One of the things that people, we are all called to be workers. We work not because we're trying to earn God's favor. We're not working to get salvation. We're not working to have God to like us more. We are people who are showing our faith through our works. That we are Christians, and that we're people who are followers of Christ, and that the faith that we have is demonstrated in the life that we're living. We are carrying out a life as a believer. And we all have a duty to do as Christians. Christians are not just to be sitting around and doing nothing. We have a work to do. One of the things I think a lot of times we have, especially as Protestants, we have, I'm saved by grace through faith, and then there's to have it without is a dead faith. And so part of what Solomon's bring to us is that many times people are reluctant to carry out and do what God has them to do, whether it be to give, whether it be to serve, whether it be to carry out any mission that He has laid on our lives, because we are trying to find just the right opportunity, just the right time, just the right thing. We want it to be everything to line up just perfectly. And he says, no, life is going on. It's going to rain as it rains. The tree's going to fall where it falls. And if you're just trying to find, you're just observing the wind, trying to find out which way it's going, you're not going to sow because you're trying to find out just time to do what you're going to do. And if you're just regarding that element, you're not going to reap. This is what he says in verse 4. He says, he who observes the wind will not sow. He who regards the cloud will not reap. If you're just looking for just following life and just looking at life. Solomon says that the benefits of what you're supposed to get will not happen. As believers, we have, there's many people who I was talking to a lady the other day, and I was talking about going to church, and she was saying, well, church, a lot of times people in the church, they're not living right, they're not doing this, they're not doing that. And the mentality of a lot of people is that they're going to do something when everything is just right. We're going to come to church when everybody's just right. We're going to do this when everything is just perfect. And Solomon says that's not how you read. The world is going on as planned. It's going to rain, trees are falling, things are going on. You can't wait. So let's do. There's mysteries that Christians can do, a lot of things that can be involved in. And this demonstrates our faith. This demonstrates who we are in Christ. This demonstrates what we are to be. It brings us out of our comfort zones to be able to interact, to go where we're supposed to go, to get out of our lives and settle in the lives that we have. And to be, in many ways, world changers. We're impacting the world as believers. This is what God calls for us to have, a working faith. A real faith, a faith that is real, vibrant, and is demonstrated in our lives as believers every day. It's one of the things that I think a lot of times with my neighbors. My neighbors may see me, and I am not always active with them, not always talking with them. And it's one of the things that is be more proactive. I do that on my job. I'm visiting the sick and stuff. But I want to be able to do that more with people that are in my community, not just my family, not just people that I'm at the church, but people that I see. And that requires for as a believer to ask the Holy Spirit to give you the power and the ability to do that. And the key signs that we're saved, that we're able to let our light shine. We're able to demonstrate our works. We're able to show forth who we are. And as Solomon says, waiting around to do that is not helpful. We're to be diligent. Proverbs 10:4 talks about diligence as well. A slack hand causes poverty. The hand of the diligent makes rich. We're to be diligent. Galatians 6:9 says, well, let us not grow weary in well doing it. We'll reap. Call to go forth and to be carrying out it says that in Corinthians. It says in Corinthians 15:58, therefore, beloved, be ye steadfast, unmovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord, knowing that your labor is what? Not in vain. That you're working. Christian is actively seeing themselves in their lives, being diligent in doing something. That's your life as a Christian. So Solomon says that. It's a very important point, very, very powerful particular point this evening. Now, as we're living life, one of the things that God wants us to understand is every aspect of our lives, every aspect as we are seeing life and observing life and seeing how life operates, either in our lives or in the lives around us or in the world around us, Solomon seems to want to bring to us that there are things that we cannot understand. You're not going to be able to understand everything. You're not going to be able to understand all the things that you're seeing in the world working around you. So this is something else that he wants to bring out to the people that he is speaking to. So let's look at verses 5 and 6. 5 and 6. What does he say in verse 5 and 6?
As you do not know what is the way of the wind, or how the bones grow in the womb of her who is with child, so you do not know the work is everything.
And so God is working in a very, very mysterious way. We don't know how he's working, but we know that he is working, and he's working in us, and he's asking us to do things, and he's asking us to perform in a certain way. He's asking us to carry out things that are beyond our understanding. Now, as Christians, one of the things that happens to us when we get saved in a very negative way. We're growing into the life of Christ. So, our lives as Christians, it is supposed to be a life that is being transformed, that is changing, that is improving. And so, one of the things that we don't know how this operates, we don't know how this takes place, is it is a mystery, the working of God and what He's doing. But He doesn't want us to be consistent in what it is we're doing because we don't understand it. You know, kids always, I tell them to do something, they always ask me why. Why do I have to do this? What's the purpose? And sometimes they don't understand. You just want them to do it because I said so. That's kind of like what we say. They don't really understand what's going on. So God is asking us to do things oftentimes that we don't understand what it means. We don't know why He's having us do this. But we're to recognize that His wisdom and His knowledge and everything that He has is beyond our understanding, beyond our ability to grasp, beyond our ability to comprehend. Jesus talks about that in the book of John. He talks to Nicodemus. He says, "What? You don't know where the wind blows. You don't know how it gets here." That's how it is when we're born again. We don't know how we are born again. It's mysterious. It's something that is beyond our understanding. So the purpose and the ways of God are beyond our understanding, and He wants to grasp this concept that it is a mystery about God. It is a mystery in terms of how things are formed. Almost like it says the birth of a child, right? It says the bones grow in the womb, and you don't know how it's growing. You don't know how it's formed. We don't know how life is formed. So it is the works of the Lord, the works of God, who makes everything. Verse 6, he goes a little bit deeper into the idea of our act of diligence. What does he say?
In the morning sow your seed, and in the evening do not withhold your hand, for you do not know which will prosper, either this or that, or whether both alike will be good.
So here he says something that's very interesting. He said that you are to consistently do this at all times. You can't say, I'm going to do it now, I'm not going to do it later, or I'm going to do it later, I'm not going to do it now. And he gives an example morning and noon. He says that you are to be diligent in your working with. And reap the crop. And he's saying, he's giving an example, he's giving a metaphor, and he's using a metaphor of planning. In doing something, you are not to say, I'm going to do it now and not do it later, or not to do it later and not do it now, that you are to consistently be diligent. Consistently be diligent in what it is that you are doing. There's always a work for the believer. There's always something for us to be doing. We can never have the excuse to tell the Lord, well, you know, I didn't have time. I was doing something. I didn't feel like doing it. It didn't seem like if I should do it. Those are what? Excuses. If we don't have the ability, we're what? We're to ask God. Lord, it's on your heart. Lord, I want to do a greater work for you. I want to be able to do more for you. I want to be able to give more. I want to be able to step out more. This is something that in our natural nature is not in us to do. And so we're consistently asking God to strengthen us to be able to do what we cannot do in our own strength. As Christians, we really are being discipled. We're being discipled. We're being trained to be like Christ. We're not like Him. We're learning. And this process of learning is something that goes on all of our lives. We're being sanctified. We're being trained into the image of Christ. Until we are able to consistently carry out greater and greater and greater things at greater depths, this is a continuing process of learning. Learning to humble ourselves. Learning to ask God to soften our hearts, to remove fear out of our hearts. People are reluctant because of fear, inconvenience, weakness, distraught, disturbed. The Lord to constantly draw His Spirit into us and empower us to be more like Him, to be able to do these things. So these are things that Solomon has noticed in the realm of diligence. And look at what he says in verse 7. Now I think this is a very interesting verse. In these two verses, that he sees something. And he's going to talk about something I think that's really very, very important. He gives a very clear, precise message here. And I think this is very interesting. We're going to look at this verses 7 and 8. Verses 7 and 8. Let's look at someone. Read those two verses for us.
Truly the light is sweet, and it is pleasant for the eyes to behold the sun. But if a man lives many years and rejoices in them all, yet let him remember the days of darkness, for they will be many. All that is coming is vanity.
Okay? So quickly, it says, truly the light is sweet, and it is pleasant for the eyes to behold the sun. But if a man lives many years and rejoices in them all, yet let him remember the days of darkness, for they will be many. All that is coming is vanity. Solomon says a very interesting thing. He says, I want you to understand the beauty of living in the here and now and enjoying your life in the sunshine. There's something I want you to see that. I want you to see not to take any day for granted. You're to live life in its fullest. Life as not a time of you're looking at the light. You're looking at the whole amount of hour of life. That your days, as you're going to get older, will be many. And they will be hard. The hard days are coming. That's what he's saying. The hard days of your life are coming. He's telling people to remember that you only have a short amount of time to do the things that you're going to do. Life goes by so quickly. Thinking about that with my kids the other day. Seems like the other day I was thinking about this. I said, man, it seems like last week I was in Kaiser and now she's already in the first grade. It's like it was just like it was yesterday. Time has gone by that fast. It's like it was just a yesterday. And the time is going by. It's going to go by really quickly. Solomon is saying that you're to see this light in a very small time because pretty soon life is going to go away from you and it will be passive. It will be smoke. You're trying to grasp it and it won't be there. This is how quickly it's going. Solomon says, how what does it say in the 7th verse? He's saying what? The light is sweet. Mm-hmm. I'm able to see life. I can enjoy it. You know, people think about their retirement years. And I remember a guy said his wife said he had retired and he was ready to retire and he finally retired and then the following year he died. I hear about that all the time. People assuming that, you know, I got some years to come, I got some time to come, but in reality, you don't know. You know, it's going to happen really quickly. Time is going to go by just like that. And Solomon sees that. He understands that. He's able to grasp it. He's able to grasp as he's looking at life and he's looking at people's lives. He's able to see how quickly that light passes and while we are to enjoy it. Enjoy this life. In other words, we're only going to come to this earth one time. And then that's it. We're not coming back to this earth again. Now, what Solomon didn't understand, he didn't have the revelation as a Christian. Of course, we're looking for a place that's better than this place. We're going to a place where Christ is preparing for us. And Solomon didn't have it. But Solomon is just giving us a general idea of what life is and how quickly it's going to leave. And he says all is vanity, all of it is hassles, all of it is that we're grasping it, it's going to go away like smoke quickly. And we're to see life and to enjoy life for the time that it is here. Look at your life, enjoy it, not just to see I'm here, I'm sitting around, but to look at the beauty to be alive. Now, he wants to move us, and we're gonna talk about a lot about this next week, but he's introducing us to a theme that he's gonna talk about, and it's gonna kind of draw us into next week's lesson, but he's gonna conclude in verses 9 and 10, and he wants to show this aspect of youth, the aspect of youth. Now, youth is it's very short, you're only young for a small amount of time, and, you promise your health, you don't know if you're gonna be healthy in your youth, of course. And you don't know if you're gonna be healthy in middle age, of course. I have a few friends that are going through some complications. They're not, say, old, you know, they're in their 50s and 60s, and they're having to go through some surgeries and different things are going on. And, I have a good friend of mine who's in his 50s. He has prostate. I have another friend that has prostate cancer. Another guy is in his 60s, and he's just got a diagnosis. So I'm meeting a lot of people that I'm encountering that are in that age, you know. Life is moving them on, moving all of us on. It's not something that's unusual. We should be thinking of a disease can take us, anything can take us. You can drive home tonight and be hit by a truck. So Solomon is drawing some very interesting conclusions, and he wants, one of the areas that he wants us to grasp is the area of youth. So he's going to talk a little bit about this area of youth, and he wants us to recognize that he has some advice for the young. Now he's going to talk about in 2 verses in the 9th verse. We're going to look at the first part of 9, and we're going to look at the second part of 9. And he gives a very interesting statement, and this is a very kind of a loose statement. He said, well, why should Solomon give him some advice like this? So let's look at verse 9 for one moment. We're going to take verse 9 apart. We're going to go to verse 10 in a little bit. But let's look at verse 9. Look at both parts. Let's look what it says. What does it say in verse 9?
Rejoice, O young youth, and let your heart cheer you in the days of youth.
Okay, so he says you need to what? Enjoy your youth. Right? Young man, young woman, are you young? Enjoy it. Let your heart enjoy youth, cheer. You know, he's even going to say, read the next part of that statement. Cheer you in the days of your youth, and what else?
Walk in the ways of your heart.
Walk in the ways of your heart. What do you think that means? To walk in the ways of your heart. What kind of advice is that? What does he tell the young person to do? Follow your instincts. Follow your dreams. Do what you want to do. Enjoy life to your fullest. In other words, live out your life as a young person. That's what he's telling you. Follow your heart. Now, what do young people want to do? When they get young, they want to do everything, right? They want to enjoy life. They want to go dancing. They want to go to parties. They want to see all their friends. On and on and on. All these things the young people want to do. What does Solomon say? So Solomon, you should enjoy life. Right? You're only going to be young once. Follow your heart. Do what you want to do. Enjoy the life to the fullest. Walk in the ways what? Of your heart. And what else?
And in the sight of your eyes.
And in the sight of your eyes. So, you know, whatever you see, you know, enjoy it. Enjoy your life. Right? So he's recognizing that life is what? Short. But more importantly, the youth is short, right? Youth is. You're going to be young for a little bit. And then he's going to give you the second part of that statement. What else did he say? Now, Solomon has known something. Remember, Solomon had everything. He had all the money in the world. He had all the women in the world. He had all the food. He had all the arts. He had all the material things. He had all the projects. He recognizes that youth is fleeting, but he also recognizes something else. Read the rest of that verse in verse 9. What else does he say?
But know that for all these God will bring you into judgment.
Recognize though, if you want to live however you want to live, what? There's a cost. That's what he's saying. God is going to ultimately judge you for the way that you are living. So he gives it. So he says, recognize, yes, you can live like you want to live, but be in reality about what it is or how it is that you're living. Because what? Can bite you. Basically what he's saying. God will ultimately judge you. He will judge your motives, he will judge your actions. He's going to judge you for what it is that you do. So think about it before you do something. That's basically what he's saying. Now I want you to do whatever you want to do, but think about what it is that you are doing. And then he says, verse 10, what?
Therefore remove sorrow from your heart and put away evil from your flesh, for childhood and youth are
Okay. Live life, but recognize it's vanity, it's smoke, it's moving quickly. You won't be young forever. That's basically what he's saying. You're not going to be young forever. I think is the main, if you look at this chapter, what do you think the main part of this chapter is saying? What do you think the main part of this chapter? What do you think this chapter really about? What is this chapter about?
Live your life with purpose.
Live your life with purpose? What else?
And control things.
You can't control things, how life is going to live. There's a value between what? Being benevolent, there's a value of diligence. Careful with your going to leave you quickly. Enjoy it. You know, be generous. Talk about 7 and 8. You know, sometimes give a large amount. You know, it's kind of like what he's talking about. And to look at our lives in a broader spectrum of this is something that's very important here too. This is something we as believers to think that our Christianity ends on Sunday. Really, it doesn't. Christianity actually begins on Sunday at 1 p.m. That's when we begin to start moving into practicing our Christianity. We don't come back to practice Christianity on Sunday. We practice it beginning at 1 o'clock on Sunday afternoon when we walk out of the church. We begin looking more into our Christianity, beginning to develop our lives, develop our work. One of those ladies, I'll never forget, her husband. They're very nice people. They had a very extensive collection of books that they have been using to study the Bible. In other words, part of their spare time was used studying the Bible, studying God's Word. And I was very impressed. They spent some time doing that. Diligent in their Christianity. They were invested. And so we have to recognize that our time is short. Psalmist is going to talk about that next week. We're going to look at that great passage where it says, remember the days of youth. So we're going to see that in chapter 12. So next time we get together, read chapter 12, we're going to continue this theme of youth. Because he's going to talk about that. He's going to talk about how it's important to recognize that while you are young, while you have strength, while you have power, you are to see God and to recognize God. To recognize the work that you are to do and who you are to be in the midst of a world that we're living in. In the midst of a world that there is an uncertain future. So the key part of one of the things of this chapter is uncertain. Life is uncertain. You don't know what's going to happen in the future. So you have to be aware and with diligence that life is fleeting. And you don't know when it's going to end and how it's going to end. You just assume that everything is going to go well, but you never know. Thinking about those people this week who got killed in that terrible thing. What, they was going to the store, right? They never thought about somebody's going to come to the store and going to shoot them. They never thought about that in a million years. Because they were going to school, some school clothes. Might get some vegetables, might get groceries, I'll be right back. Some of them, never came back. So life is short and we are uncertain about the future. So Solomon raises the very good points in this chapter about the future, how to see the world in a much broader spectrum as we relate to God. Future, giving, diligent, youth, not procrastinating, and seeing ourselves as people We have a faith, but also have a working faith in Christ Jesus. The Holy Spirit is transforming us. If He's truly giving us life, then He's giving us life as people to live out a life that's real. Live out a life that is working, not just a life that we just hear something theoretically, but we actually are transforming that life to function in the world around us.